Hello, I'm Kevin Kearns, and welcome to this edition of ShopperTrends. Today I'm joined by Brian Field, Senior Director of Advisory Services. Brian, we're hearing a lot about the retail calendar. Can you help us understand why it's so important to retailers?
Sure. It helps them to be able to plan things out so that they understand the differences between year-over-year sales and year-over-year traffic results. The calendar itself is divided out. The National Retail Federation, for example, has a strong seasonal blend to their calendar. So, for example, they start their calendar in fiscal February and end it in December so that they can take advantage of understanding the seasons for each retailer.
How exactly does a retailer use the calendar to plan year-over-year comparisons?
They use the calendar to divide things out into 52 weeks. And the typical NRF calendar is a 4-5-4 calendar. So it's 4 weeks for 1 month, the next month is 5 weeks, the third month is 4 weeks. And altogether they have 13 weeks within a quarter. And again, it's divided out by season. So for example, the first half of the year is considered spring, second half of the year is considered fall, and then within each quarter, again, it's following the holidays and the seasons.
Any advice for retailers who are planning their forecasting on the calendar? How would they handle that?
The way that retailers would handle that would be to look at what they did last year, look at the holidays that were meaningful to them and the unique events that they had. For example, if they did a friends and family event or something that is unique to them, they want to document that. And when they're looking at the calendar for next year, they want to align their expectations based on any differences that they see from those events. So for example, if a holiday moves around the calendar, like Easter moves around between months, or Christmas Day can move around between days of the week within December. They want to make sure that they're adjusting their expectations based on that when the customers are going to be in the store.
What should a retailer consider when there's a major election going on in that calendar year?
Advertising for the most part. It would be, for example, that advertising is in an election year is very tied up to campaign events versus retail sales events. So they may get at the beginning of an election cycle or an election period leading up to the election fewer customers based on that there's less advertising. But once the election is done, then they're going to see the influx come back in.
What should a retailer think about when considering the calendar?
Shifts and events. So, for example, if I'm looking at events for this year and I'm planning, I need to look at what happened last year, find similar events from last year. If I'm doing an events on a different day than I did the year before, and plan according to that.
Brian, in addition to calendar and event shifts, what other things should retailers be thinking about when doing their forecast?
Absolutely current trends, especially in traffic.
Okay.
So for example, if your current trend is up in traffic and much more aggressive than it was in the prior year, you have to take that into consideration when you're looking at last year's activity versus what you're expecting to happen this year.
Terrific, very insightful. Thank you, Brian. And thank you for joining us on this edition of ShopperTrends.